The night my ex's best friend moved into my spare room, she showed up with two suitcases, one dying basil plant, and a sentence I had spent 13 months pretending I didn't need to hear. "She's not coming back, Nolan," Jenna said, standing on my porch in the rain. "And I'm tired of waiting for you to figure that out." I was 32 years old enough to know silence could be an answer, and apparently still young enough to keep checking my phone like a fool. My name is Nolan Price. I draw house plans for a small design firm in Grand Rapids, mostly kitchen expansions and second-story additions for people who say things like open concept as if walls have personally offended them. I lived alone in a narrow blue bungalow I bought with big plans and a bigger mortgage, and for the past year I had been slowly renovating it one room at a time. The living room was finished, the bathroom was half finished, my heart was still in demolition. Vanessa had left 13 months earlier with a weekend bag and a vague speech about needing space. She had been my girlfriend for 4 years. She said she was going to stay with her cousin in Chicago. Then she stopped answering calls. Then she sent a text that said, "I just can't be what you need right now." That was it. No real breakup. No return for her books, her winter coat, or the ridiculous ceramic rooster she had insisted belonged in my kitchen. For a long time, I told myself she was confused, hurt, overwhelmed. Then the truth trickled in through mutual friends, awkward pauses, and one photo I should never have seen of her on a beach in Florida, with a man named Ryan wearing the white sundress I'd bought her for our anniversary. You'd think that would cure a man. It didn't. It just made me quiet. Jenna Walsh had been Vanessa's best friend since college, which should have made her the last person I wanted around. But Jenna had done something nobody expected after Vanessa disappeared. She stayed. Not in some dramatic way. She didn't bring casseroles and speeches. She just kept inviting me to trivia with our old group. She texted when my dog, Murphy, had surgery. She dropped off soup during a flu I pretended wasn't serious. Once, when I posted a picture of my crooked backsplash, she came over with tile spacers and said, "Nolan, I'm begging you to stop making permanent decisions after 10 p.m." She was a project manager for a local nonprofit, which meant she could coordinate 6 fundraisers, calm 3 angry donors, and still remember exactly where she'd left her car keys. She had dark blonde hair she usually twisted into a messy knot, sharp green eyes, and a mouth that always looked like it was one bad sentence away from calling you out. I liked that about her. I liked too much about her, if I'm being honest. But there are rules decent people follow. One of them is that you don't look too long at your vanished ex-girlfriend's best friend, even when she's standing in your kitchen wearing your old sweatshirt because she got caught in a downpour, especially then. So when Jenna called me that Friday evening and said, "Please don't make this weird, but my landlord sold the building and my new place fell through," I said the only safe thing. "How weird are we talking?" "Possibly medium weird." "Scale of 1 to Vanessa's rooster?" "Nothing is that weird." I laughed before I could stop myself. That was the problem with Jenna. Around her, the air moved again. 2 hours later, she was on my porch, soaked through, trying to balance the basil plant under her chin while dragging a suitcase with a broken wheel. I opened the door, and Murphy, my 60-pound mutt with the social boundaries of a cruise director, shoved past me and launched himself at her knees. "Oh, thank God," Jenna said, dropping the suitcase handle to scratch behind his ears. "At least one price man is excited to see me." "I'm excited," I said. "I'm just less furry about it." Her eyes flicked up to mine. There was a tiny pause. Too small to name, too long to ignore. Rain dripped from her hair onto her collarbone, and I suddenly became very interested in the suitcase. "Come in," I said, stepping back, "before the neighbors think I make women negotiate rent in the weather." "Do you?" "Only the suspicious ones." "I brought references." "You listed Murphy twice. He has excellent judgment." I took the heavier suitcase from her hand and our fingers brushed around the handle. It was nothing. Skin touching skin for half a second. Except I felt it all the way up my arm. She must have felt something too because she looked down, then cleared her throat and lifted the basil plant between us like a shield. "This is Arthur," she said. "You named your basil Arthur? He's been through a lot. Clearly. He doesn't like judgment. Then Arthur and I already have something in common." That made her smile, not her polite smile, but the real one that softened her whole face and made me remember what it felt like to be looked at without being measured against someone who had already left. I carried her bags down the hall to the spare room. It used to be Vanessa's office. For months after she left, I kept it exactly how it was, like a museum exhibit called Man Waiting for Bad News. Eventually, I boxed her things and painted the walls a warm gray. I put in a bed, a small desk, new curtains. I told myself it was for guests. I never expected the first guest to be Jenna. She stood in the doorway, taking it in. "You painted?" "Yeah, it looks good." "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not surprised, I'm moved. There's a difference." "You cried when the hardware store discontinued that blue paint you liked." "It was a complex blue." I set her suitcase beside the bed. "Stay as long as you need. We'll figure out rent later." Nolan. I mean it. Her expression changed then. The joking edge faded. "I don't want to take advantage of you." "You're not. You say that because you're dangerously decent." "I've been called worse." "I know." The softness in her voice made me look at her. She was closer than I realized, standing just inside the room with her damp sweater clinging to her shoulders, her eyes steady on mine. For a second, the house went quiet except for rain tapping the windows and Murphy snuffling around her bags like he'd been appointed inspector. Jenna reached out and touched the sleeve of my shirt just once. Not enough to pull me toward her. Enough to make me wish she would. "You shouldn't still be living like she might walk back in," she said. I looked away first. "That obvious?" "Nolan, her rooster is still on top of your fridge." "It's load-bearing." "No," she said gently. "It's a shrine with feathers." I should have made another joke. I was good at that. Jokes kept people from seeing the parts of me that still flinched. But maybe I was tired. Maybe it was the rain, or the way she had shown up with nowhere to go, and somehow made me feel like I was the one being rescued. "I don't know how to be the guy who got left," I admitted. Jenna's face tightened, not with pity, with anger on my behalf. "That's not who you are." "You sure?" "Yes." She said it so quickly that something in my chest moved. Then she added, quieter, "You're the guy who stayed honest when somebody else didn't." I stared at her. Nobody had put it that way before. We ordered Thai food because neither of us had enough dignity left to cook. We ate at my kitchen island on mismatched stools while rain streamed down the windows, and Murphy stationed himself between us like a hopeful chaperone. Jenna stole one of my spring rolls. I let her. "You saw that," she said. "I'm choosing peace. You're choosing cowardice. I'm choosing to live with a woman who owns a plant named Arthur. I don't know what you're capable of." She laughed with her mouth full, then covered it with the back of her hand. "Sorry, very elegant roommate behavior." "Don't worry, I lowered my expectations when you introduced me to the basil." She kicked my foot under the island, not hard, just enough. And that small, ridiculous touch did more damage to my common sense than Vanessa's silence ever had. Later, while Jenna rinsed plates and I dried them, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it and went still. I didn't mean to look, but the screen lit up between us. Vanessa. Just her name. After 13 months of nothing, my ex-girlfriend was calling the woman standing in my kitchen wearing my sweatshirt. Jenna didn't answer. The phone buzzed until it stopped. Neither of us moved. Then Jenna gripped the edge of the sink and whispered, "There's something I should have told you a long time. Ego." My hand tightened around the dish towel. "What?" She turned to face me, rain still shining in her hair, guilt written so clearly across her face that I already knew it was going to hurt. "I knew about Ryan before you did," she said, "and I didn't tell you." For a second, I heard everything too clearly. The faucet dripping, Murphy's nails clicking against the floor, Jenna's breath catching as if she'd been holding the truth in her lungs for a year and it had finally turned poisonous. "You knew," I said. She nodded once. My first feeling wasn't anger. That came second. The first was embarrassment. Hot, stupid embarrassment. Because I remembered all the times I defended Vanessa after she left. All the times Jenna had been there, listening while I said things like, "She just needs time," and "she wouldn't do that," while knowing I was wrong. How long? I asked. Jenna closed her eyes. About 3 weeks before she left. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. 3 weeks. Nolan, you knew for 3 weeks that she was cheating on me? I saw them together. I confronted her. She swore she was ending it. And you believed her? No. Her voice cracked. I wanted to. That landed harder than I expected. She didn't defend herself, didn't make a speech about being caught in the middle. She just stood there in my kitchen, shoulders stiff, eyes shining, letting me hate her if I needed to. And I did need to. For about 10 seconds. Then I looked at the sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder, the wet hair curling against her neck, the way her hands trembled against the counter, and the anger twisted into something heavier. You let me look like an idiot, I said quietly. Her face crumpled. I know. I looked away because I hated seeing that, hated it because part of me wanted to comfort her, and that felt like betrayal layered on top of betrayal. I should have told you, she said. I have replayed it 1,000 times. I told myself it wasn't my secret, that Vanessa would handle it, that if I said something and she fixed it, I'd be the person who blew up your life for nothing. But she didn't fix it. No, Jenna swallowed. She ran. And you stayed. Her eyes found mine. Yes. Why? The question came out rougher than I meant it to. Jenna wrapped her arms around herself. At first, guilt. I thought if I checked on you, if I made sure you ate and got out of the house and didn't drown in all of it, maybe I could make up for being a coward. I waited. And then? I asked. Her mouth parted slightly. The rain had softened outside, settling into a low hush. The kitchen light reflected in her eyes, making them look greener than usual. And then it stopped being about guilt, she said. The room changed. Nothing moved, but somehow the space between us got smaller. My heartbeat became an unreasonable thing. Jenna, I know. She looked down fast. Bad timing, terrible timing. Maybe the worst timing ever recorded. Forget I said that. That's not something you say and take back. I can try. You're bad at lying. A sad little smile touched her mouth. Clearly. I should have stepped away. I should have remembered every rule, every complication, every reason this was a terrible idea. Instead, I reached past her and turned off the faucet. The silence after was almost intimate. I'm angry, I said. I know. I don't know what to do with the fact that you didn't tell me. I know that too. But I also know you stayed when you didn't have to. I looked at her then, really looked. And I don't think you stayed because you're a coward. Her eyes filled. Nolan, please don't make this easy on me. I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. She breathed out shakily. That's worse? I almost smiled. Almost. Then Vanessa's name lit up Jenna's phone again. The spell broke. Jenna flinched like the phone had teeth. I stared at it until the buzzing stopped. Are you going to answer? I asked. No. Why is she calling you? I don't know. But she did know something. I could see it. Jenna picked up the phone and turned it face down. Whatever she wants, she doesn't get to walk into this house through me. This house, not my house, this house, that should not have mattered. It did. I nodded toward the hallway. You've had a long day. Get some sleep. Her expression shifted. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. Right, she said. Roommate boundaries. I deserved that. She started past me, but I caught her wrist before I thought better of it. Not hard. Just my fingers around the delicate bones there. She stopped. The pulse under my thumb jumped. I don't want you to go to bed thinking I hate you, I said. She looked at my hand on her wrist, then up at me. Do you? No. Do you trust me? That one cost me. I want to. Her eyes softened, but she didn't let me off the hook. Then I'll earn it. I let go, and for one strange second, I missed the warmth of her skin like I'd given something up. She went to the spare room. I stayed in the kitchen until the house went quiet. The next morning, she made coffee before I woke up. There was a mug on the counter, black, no sugar, exactly how I drank it. A sticky note was stuck to the side. I'm sorry, also your coffee maker is dramatic. I stared at that note for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I took Vanessa's ceramic rooster down from the top of the fridge. It was heavier than it looked, smug and red and stupid. I carried it to the basement and set it on a shelf between paint cans and a box of old tax returns. When I came back upstairs, Jenna was standing in the kitchen doorway in pajama pants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair loose around her shoulders. She saw the empty spot on the fridge. Then she saw me. "You moved him," she said. "Temporary relocation. Witness protection? He knows what he did." Her mouth twitched. "How does it feel?" I glanced at the fridge, then at her. "Better." She nodded, but her eyes were bright again. I raised a finger. "If you cry over the rooster, I'm raising your rent." "I'm not crying over the rooster." "Good. I'm crying because Arthur survived the night." I laughed, and the sound surprised both of us. That was how we began. Not cleanly, not without bruises. But we began. Over the next few months, Jenna became part of the house in quiet, impossible ways. Her shoes by the back door, her cinnamon tea in the cabinet, her voice on work calls drifting down the hall, calm and competent and occasionally terrifying. She labeled the mystery switches in the hallway because living with electrical roulette is not a personality. I fixed the wobbly leg on her desk. She made fun of my playlists. I pretended not to notice when she added songs to them anyway. We developed rituals. Wednesday grocery runs, Friday takeout. Sunday mornings on the porch with coffee, Murphy sprawled between us like a furry peace treaty. One chilly October night, the furnace made a sound like a dying whale, and Jenna appeared in the hallway wrapped in a blanket. If this house is haunted, I'm negotiating directly with the ghost. It's the furnace. That's what the ghost wants you to think. I crouched by the vent trying to listen. She crouched beside me, blanket slipping off one shoulder. Our knees touched. Neither of us moved away. "You're very close," I said. "I'm supervising." "You're in my personal space." "You left it unattended." I turned my head. She was inches away, smiling like she knew exactly what she was doing. Her hair smelled like vanilla and cold air. I could have counted every freckle across her nose. My gaze dropped to her mouth, her smile faded. "Nolan," she whispered. It wasn't a warning, it was a question. I wanted to answer it with my hands, my mouth, every part of me that had been waking up slowly since the night she moved in. Instead, the furnace clanked again, and Murphy barked once from the living room, offended by machinery. Jenna startled, then laughed under her breath. I laughed too, but I didn't move back. Her shoulder pressed against mine, warm through the blanket. "We should probably fix that," she said. "Yeah." "Very responsible." "Painfully." Still, we stayed crouched there for another few seconds, close enough that our breathing matched. And when she finally stood, she held out a hand to help me up. I took it. This time, neither of us pretended it was nothing. By November, pretending Jenna was just my roommate had become a full-time job. A bad one. The kind with no benefits and unreasonable hours because roommates did not notice the exact sound of each other's bare feet in the hallway. Roommates did not memorize how the other took coffee when tired versus truly exhausted. Roommates did not stand in the laundry room holding a warm towel and forget the English language because the other person smiled and said, "You folded my hoodie like a gift." Should I be worried? I said, "It was already rectangular." She said, "Romantic." Then we both went quiet. That kept happening. We'd be joking, easy as breathing, and then something would shift. Her hand would brush mine in the silverware drawer. I'd find her asleep on the couch under a blanket and feel an ache so sharp I had to leave the room. She'd come home late from work, kick off her heels, and lean against the door with a tired smile that made me want to cross the room and pull her into me. Instead, I asked about her day. She told me. That was somehow worse. Because I didn't just want Jenna. I knew her. I knew she hummed when she was reading spreadsheets. I knew she hated mushrooms but kept trying them every few months in case her personality evolved. I knew she called her mother every Sunday and lied about being less stressed than she was. I knew guilt still lived behind her eyes whenever Vanessa's name came up, even though we hardly said it anymore. One Friday, our takeout ritual became something dangerously close to a date. The Thai place was closed for renovations, so Jenna stood in the kitchen with her phone in one hand and declared, "We have been abandoned by noodles." A tragedy. I'm not emotionally prepared to choose another restaurant. We could cook. She looked at me like I'd suggested we build a boat. With ingredients? That's usually how it works. Nolan, I have seen your fridge. It contains mustard, eggs, and a jar of something labeled maybe pesto. It is definitely pesto. It's brown. It has history. She set her phone down. Fine, we cook. But if I die, Arthur gets my room. We made breakfast for dinner because it was the only meal my kitchen could support. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon, and one heroic attempt at hash browns that became, as Jenna called them, potato confetti. Music played from my speaker. She had added half the playlist herself by then, which meant my old rock songs were now interrupted by bright, ridiculous pop music she claimed was structurally excellent. She danced while flipping pancakes, badly, joyfully. I leaned against the counter and watched her, laughing despite myself. "What?" she demanded, pointing the spatula at me. "Nothing. That is a very loud nothing. You're getting batter on the floor. I'm creating ambiance. You're creating a slip hazard?" She took a step closer, holding the spatula like a weapon. "You used to be more fun. I used to be less afraid of pancake-related lawsuits." Her eyes narrowed. Then she swiped a dot of batter onto my cheek. I froze. She froze too, as if she hadn't expected herself to do it. The kitchen seemed to warm by 10 degrees. Slowly, I reached up and wiped the batter away with my thumb. That was bold. Jenna's gaze dropped to my mouth. It was deserved. I set my hand on the counter beside her, close enough that my knuckles brushed her hip. Was it? Her breath caught. For a second, I thought this was it. The moment we stopped stepping around the obvious and walked straight into it. Then her phone buzzed. We both looked. Vanessa? Again. Jenna's face closed. The old anger sparked in me, but not the way it used to. It wasn't longing anymore, it wasn't grief. It was irritation that a ghost kept knocking during the only life I wanted. Jenna turned the phone over. "I can block her," she said. "You don't have to do that for me." Her eyes lifted. "I'd do it for me." That hit deeper than it should have. She took the phone, tapped twice, and set it back down. "There," she said, "blocked." The silence afterward was not empty. It was full of everything that single choice meant. I looked at her. "Are you okay?" "No," she said honestly, "but I'm lighter." I nodded. She gave me a small smile. "Also, your pancake is burning." "Damn it!" She laughed, and the tension broke into something softer. We ate at the kitchen island with the lights low and the rain tapping at the windows again, like the house remembered the night she came. Her knee rested against mine under the counter. At first I thought it was accidental, then she didn't move it. Neither did I. After dinner, we carried our mugs to the porch, wrapped in coats against the cold. Murphy refused to join us, having decided November was a personal betrayal. The street was quiet. Wet leaves shone under the porch light. Jenna held her mug with both hands. "Can I ask you something risky? With you, that could mean anything from emotional honesty to moving a couch." She smiled faintly. "Do you still love her?" I knew who she meant. A year ago, that question would have ruined me. Now I looked out at the dark yard and searched myself honestly. "No," I said. "I think I loved who I thought she was. And then I loved the idea that if she came back, it meant I hadn't been so easy to leave." Jenna went very still. I turned toward her. "But I don't want her back." Her eyes met mine, uncertain and hopeful in a way that made my chest ache. "What do you want?" she asked. There it was. The question we had been living inside for months. I could have dodged, made a joke, let fear dress itself up as patience. Instead, I set my mug on the porch rail. "You." The word came out low, but it didn't shake. Jenna stopped breathing for half a second. "Nolan, I know it's complicated. It's more than complicated." "I know. I was her friend. You were mine too." Her eyes shone. "I hurt you. Yes, I might still be the reminder." I stepped closer. You're not a reminder of what she did. You're the person who helped me remember I could want something else. A tear slipped down her cheek and she laughed once, embarrassed. That is a very unfairly good sentence. I've been saving it. For porch weather? For when I stopped being an idiot. She wiped her cheek. And have you? Mostly. She laughed again, softer. I lifted my hand, giving her time to move away. She didn't. So I brushed the damp track of the tear from her cheek with my thumb. Her skin was cold from the air, her eyes were warm. I want you too, she whispered. I have for longer than I'm proud of. But I don't want to be something you fall into because you're lonely. You're not. I don't want to be revenge. You're not. I don't want to be second. I leaned closer, close enough to see her breath tremble. You're not. Her hand came up and curled around the front of my coat. That was all the permission I needed. I kissed her, not hard, not desperate, just a careful, aching press of my mouth to hers, the kind of kiss that asked and answered at the same time. Jenna made a small sound, half relief, half surrender, and kissed me back. Her fingers tightened in my coat. My hand slid to her jaw. The world narrowed to cold air, porch light, and the sweet warmth of her mouth opening under mine. When we finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against my chin and whispered, "That was a terrible idea." "Awful," I agreed. "Reckless. Extremely. We should probably discuss boundaries." "Definitely." Neither of us moved. Then the front door creaked open behind us, and Murphy shoved his head through the gap, huffing like a disappointed parent. Jenna burst out laughing against my chest. I wrapped my arms around her because now that I'd done it once, letting go seemed impossible. "We tell the dog nothing," I said. "He already knows. He's judgmental. He learned from me." I kissed her hair and she went quiet in my arms. For the first time in 13 months, then 14, then longer, the house didn't feel like a place someone had left. It felt like a place someone had chosen. And she was still choosing it. Choosing me. The next morning, Vanessa called from a new number. I didn't answer. Jenna saw the screen in my hand, then looked at me, not afraid, not guilty, just waiting. I turned the phone off and reached for her hand across the kitchen table. Her fingers slid between mine. Whatever Vanessa wanted, she could wait. Jenna was here. Dating your roommate sounds convenient until you realize there is nowhere to retreat when you've kissed her goodnight and then have to see her the next morning stealing your cereal. Jenna stood in my kitchen the day after the porch kiss, wearing fuzzy socks and my old gray sweatshirt, holding the cereal box like evidence. "You bought the cinnamon kind," she said. "I live here. I can buy cereal." "You hate cinnamon cereal." "I have evolved." "You bought it for me." "Maybe I bought it for Arthur." "The basil is watching its sugar." I leaned against the counter, trying not to smile like a man with no dignity left. "Fine, I bought it for you." Her expression softened. Then, because she was Jenna, she ruined the tenderness by shaking the box at me. "This is basically a dowry." "I'll inform my ancestors." She laughed, and I crossed the kitchen before I could overthink it. This was new too, the permission to cross rooms. I stopped in front of her. "Can I kiss you good morning?" Her teasing faded into something warmer. "You can ask me that every day if you want." "Every day? Don't get arrogant." I touched her waist, careful at first, and she tipped her face up like she'd been waiting. The kiss was softer than the one on the porch, sleepy and sweet, tasting faintly of coffee. Her hand rested against my chest, right over my heart, and I wondered if she could feel it, acting like a teenager. When we parted, she whispered, "This is going to get messy." "Probably." "I'm serious." "So am I." Her gaze searched mine. "If this goes wrong, I lose my room, my friend, my safe place." "You won't lose your safe place." "Nolan, I mean it. Even if we mess this up, I won't punish you for taking a chance on me." Her eyes went shiny, and I pressed a kiss to her forehead before she could make a joke to hide it. That Friday, I took her on our first official date. It felt important to leave the house. The house had held our grief, our secrets, our almosts. I wanted one night that belonged to us on purpose. So I drove her to a small Italian place downtown with brick walls, tiny tables, and candles that made everyone look like they had better cheekbones than they did. Jenna slid into the booth across from me and narrowed her eyes. You made a reservation. I'm familiar with restaurants. You wore the blue shirt. I own shirts. The blue shirt means effort. I looked down. Does it? Yes, don't play innocent. It's your emotionally available shirt. I laughed. I didn't know my wardrobe was being monitored. I'm a project manager. Everything is monitored. The waiter came by and Jenna ordered red wine like she knew what she was doing. I ordered the same because I absolutely did not. When he left, she leaned her chin on her hand. Are you nervous? No. She raised an eyebrow. Yes. Good, me too. That helped more than it should have. Dinner was easy until it became intimate, which was how things with Jenna always went. We talked about work, Murphy's latest crime, the Basil's declining morale. Then the conversation slipped into childhood, family, the lives we'd pictured before reality got its hands on them. I used to think love meant being chosen loudly, she said, turning her wine glass by the stem. Big gestures, declarations, someone proving it in a way nobody could miss. And now I think it might be someone noticing you're out of cinnamon cereal. My throat tightened. I reached across the table, palm up. She looked at my hand, then placed hers in it. I want to choose you loudly too, I said. Her thumb brushed mine. Careful, Price. That sounded like a promise. It was. After dinner, we walked along the river, bundled in our coats, shoulders bumping. The city lights broke apart on the water. Jenna's hand found mine without hesitation this time. Halfway across the pedestrian bridge, she stopped. What? I asked. She looked up at me. I'm happy. The words seemed to scare her. I knew the feeling. I cupped her cheek with my gloved hand. Me too. This is inconvenient. Extremely. I had a whole plan for staying emotionally unavailable. Terrible plan. It had color-coded tabs. Then I respect it, but I'm glad it failed. She smiled and I kissed her under the bridge lights, slow enough that people had to walk around us. She laughed into my mouth, embarrassed, then kissed me back harder, like maybe being chosen loudly wasn't so bad after all. For 2 weeks, we were careful and ridiculous. We made rules. No kissing during work calls, no using roommate. Chores as flirting leverage. No making Murphy choose sides. We broke the first 2 immediately. The third was impossible because Murphy had chosen Jenna months ago. Then Vanessa came back. Not with a phone call, not with a text. She showed up on my porch on a Sunday afternoon while Jenna and I were painting the upstairs hallway, both of us speckled with primer and arguing over whether warm white was a scam. The doorbell rang. Murphy barked. I opened the door with paint on my forearm and found Vanessa standing there in a camel coat, hair perfect, suitcase beside her like the past had packed lightly. For one strange second, I felt nothing. No thunderclap, no ache. Just recognition, like seeing a street you no longer lived on. Hi, Nolan, she said. Behind me, Jenna went silent. Vanessa's eyes flicked past my shoulder and found her. Oh, she said. So it's true. I didn't move aside. What do you want? Her mouth tightened. Maybe she had expected me to ask where she'd been. Maybe she had rehearsed tears. Maybe in her version, I was still waiting beside the empty spot on the fridge. I wanted to talk, she said. To both of you, apparently. Jenna stepped up beside me. Not behind me. Beside me. Her hand brushed mine, and I took it. Vanessa saw. The hurt that crossed her face might have mattered once. Now it was only sad. You're kidding, she whispered. No, Jenna said. Her voice shook, but she didn't let go of my hand. We're not. Vanessa looked at her like she'd been slapped. My best friend? Jenna flinched. I felt it through her fingers. That was when I knew the conversation could not happen with Jenna standing there, absorbing guilt she had been carrying too long. Vanessa, I said, calm in a way that surprised me. You left. You cheated. You disappeared for over a year. You don't get to come back and claim a place you abandoned. Her eyes snapped to mine. I made mistakes. Yes. I was confused. I'm sorry for that. I missed you. Jenna's hand loosened as if she was preparing to let go for my sake. I tightened my grip. Vanessa noticed. So did Jenna. I looked at the woman on my porch who had once been my whole future and felt only the quiet certainty of a closed door. I don't miss us, I said. Vanessa's face crumpled. For a second, I saw the person I had loved, or thought I loved. Young, scared, selfish, human. But beside me was the woman who had stayed, told the truth even when it cost her, and looked at me like I was more than someone left behind. I'm with Jenna, I said, because I want to be. Jenna made a small sound, almost a breath. Vanessa looked between us, then nodded once, hard and wounded. I guess I deserve that. I didn't answer. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But Jenna didn't deserve any more punishment. Vanessa picked up her suitcase. I'll email about the rest of my things. Okay. She walked down the steps. No dramatic music, no chase, no collapse. Just a woman leaving, finally, while the woman I loved stood beside me covered in paint. When I closed the door, Jenna pulled her hand from mine and walked into the living room. My stomach dropped. Jen. She turned, her eyes were wet. I need to ask you something, she said. Anything. If she had come back 6 months ago, no. You don't know what I'm asking. Yes, I do. She wrapped her arms around herself. I need the whole answer. So I gave it to her. I crossed the room, stopping close but not touching until she chose it too. 6 months ago, I was already falling for you, I said. I was just too scared and too loyal to a ghost to admit it. If Vanessa had come back then, maybe I would have been confused. Maybe I would have needed a minute, but I would have still ended up here. With me? With you. Her face broke open, relief and fear at once. Then she stepped into me. I wrapped my arms around her and she pressed her forehead to my chest. I hated hearing her call me that, she whispered. Her best friend. Like that's all I'm allowed to be. I kissed the top of her head. You're not hers anymore. She lifted her face. No? No. I brushed paint from her cheek with my thumb. You're yours, and if I'm lucky, you're mine too. Her mouth trembled into a smile. That was dangerously smooth. I'm growing. You're covered in primer. You like it. She laughed, then kissed me, messy, relieved, and fierce. This time, when she pulled back, she didn't look guilty. She looked chosen. For 3 days after Vanessa came back, Jenna waited for the other shoe to drop. I could see it in the way she paused before entering a room I was in, like happiness had a motion sensor, and she was afraid to set it off. I saw it when my phone buzzed and her eyes flicked to it before she could stop herself. I saw it when she laughed, then caught herself, as if joy needed permission. So on Wednesday night, I did the only thing I could think to do. I handed her a screwdriver. She looked at it, then at me. Is this a threat or foreplay? Depends how well you follow instructions. Nolan Price, that was almost confident. I've had a big week. We were standing in the spare room, her room, with the bed pushed to one wall and a flat-packed bookshelf spread across the floor. Vanessa had emailed a short list of things she wanted. I boxed them up, including the ceramic rooster, and mailed them without ceremony. The top of my fridge was empty, the house felt lighter. But Jenna still looked like she was bracing for impact. So I bought a bookshelf. Not romantic, maybe, but Jenna owned too many books for the 2 sad crates she'd been living out of. And I wanted her things on the walls. I wanted proof. I wanted her to stop being ready to leave. She crouched beside me on the floor, studying the instructions. This diagram is offensive. It's a bookshelf. It's a test of character. You manage nonprofit budgets. Exactly. I know evil when I see it. We worked shoulder to shoulder, knees bumping, passing screws back and forth. At one point, she leaned across me for a wooden peg, and her hair brushed my jaw. I turned my head and kissed her temple. She went still. What? I asked. Nothing. Her voice softened. You just do that now. Kiss you. Like it's allowed. I set down the screwdriver. It is allowed. Her eyes met mine. I'm still getting used to that. Then I'll keep practicing. That earned me the smile I'd been trying to coax out all week. When the bookshelf was finally upright, slightly crooked but morally sound, Jenna began unpacking her books. Novels, cookbooks she rarely used, a battered poetry collection, a stack of notebooks with color-coded tabs. Then she took Arthur the basil from the windowsill and placed him on the top shelf. Bold choice, I said. He's earned a penthouse. He's mostly twigs. He is in a transitional season. I stepped behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. She leaned back against me without hesitation this time, her hands covering mine. That's what this is, she whispered. Isn't it? A transitional season. I rested my chin near her shoulder. I hope it's more like a beginning. She turned in my arms. There were still shadows in her eyes, but they didn't own the whole room anymore. I love you, she said. I had imagined hearing that from her too many times to count. In the kitchen, on the porch, half asleep, laughing, crying. But the real thing was quieter than my imagination, stronger too. I touched her cheek. I love you too. Her breath trembled, and then she kissed me like she believed me. Not completely, not forever, not yet. But enough for that night. Enough to stay. By Christmas, Jenna's cinnamon tea had taken over an entire cabinet. Murphy had fully abandoned me for her side of the couch, and the spare room was no longer called the spare room. It was Jenna's room when she needed quiet. Our room when she didn't. We didn't rush every step. Some nights were easy, some were complicated. Sometimes guilt still found her, and sometimes old hurt found me. But we learned each other in a new way. Not as survivors of Vanessa's leaving, not as almosts in a hallway, but as two people choosing daily to be honest. That was the part nobody tells you about love after betrayal. It isn't dramatic every day. Sometimes it's a hand reaching across the kitchen table when a bad memory shows up. Sometimes it's saying, I need reassurance instead of pretending you're fine. Sometimes it's buying the cinnamon cereal before she asks. And sometimes it's standing in a hardware store arguing over paint samples with a woman you once thought you weren't allowed to want. By the following spring, the bungalow looked less like a renovation project and more like a home. Jenna planted herbs in boxes along the porch rail. Murphy dug up two and was briefly placed under investigation. Arthur, against all medical expectation, produced 3 new leaves. We hosted Sunday dinner for our friends, and nobody said Vanessa's name. Not because it was forbidden, because there were better things to talk about. Jenna burned the garlic bread. I overcooked the pasta. Everyone ate anyway. Later, after the dishes were done and the house had emptied, I found her on the porch in the soft April dark, barefoot, wrapped in a cardigan, looking out at the little herb boxes like they were proof of something. I stepped beside her. You okay? She nodded. I was just thinking about the night I moved in. With 2 suitcases and a dying plant? And a lot of guilt. And medium weirdness, she smiled. Very medium. I leaned on the railing next to her. I was thinking about that night too. What part? The part where you told me she wasn't coming back. Jenna looked at me carefully. I took her hand. You were right, I said. But you left out the important part. What was that? That I didn't need her to? Her eyes softened and I pulled her close. Across the street, porch lights glowed one by one. Inside, Murphy barked at nothing, probably a dust particle with bad intentions. The kitchen window shone warm behind us, and on the top shelf in Jenna's room, Arthur leaned stubbornly toward the sun. Jenna rested her head against my chest. I kissed her hair and held her there, on the porch where she had arrived in the rain and where I had finally learned the difference between being left and being chosen. The woman who disappeared had ended one life, but the woman who stayed helped me build another. And this time, nobody in that house was waiting. What would you have done if your ex's best friend showed up needing a place to stay, then admitted she knew about the betrayal before you did? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.